So today I've got my picture of Zazu out and I'm going to use some really dense paper, and I've tested out my watercolour on it. I'm going to be starting with my pencil work. So starting with the head, you're going to draw a circle. It doesn't have to be perfect, remember that. Onto that you're going to draw a triangle to make it look like an ice cream cone, and just below it another oval circle. From that I'm going to shoot out my tail. So you can already start to see what's happening. At the base I'm going to draw an even smaller triangle, and then I'm going to start to plot out my wings. So I'm going to do a semicircle, and then on the edge of my semicircle I'm going to start to draw my feather shapes, which are basically just big swords sticking out from that semicircle. Once I've done that, I'm just looking at my eye shape here and those little flicky bits on the side of his head. His second eye is only a half semicircle, and once I've put that into place, I'm going to grab my permanent marker. Oh, I forgot to map out his wing, which is also just another oval with a fancy triangle on the end. So outline your pieces that you've got here. Now when you outline, make sure that you're drawing long, thick strokes so that everything looks nice and neat. You don't want any jagged edges, so you can see that I place my pen down and drag my pen along the surface of my paper. I try not to lift the pen up too much, because then that takes and breaks the line that you're creating. So once you've drawn over these lines, you're then going to start to add in some more of the features, which are probably the most prominent, so the most that stand out. Now this pen that I'm using is not very good, and you'll start to see that it starts to go a bit faded. Make sure that you're using a pen that has got lots of ink in it, because you want your lines to stand out. So there you go. Now when it comes to his eyes and around his headline, I'm drawing small jagged lines that are meant to be there, and those are to give texture of another type of feather. So here you can see when I outline his eyes, those are his eyebrows, I draw sort of jagged lines. I flick outwards from the line that I created, my pencil work, and that creates that nice jagged texture, and that texture's meant to be there. Colouring in those little side bits on his head, beautiful. Now you can go over and over your lines depending on what you want. I'm now looking at his beak shape, which is probably the hardest part of Zazu to draw, because it needs to meet a certain point, which is under his eye. Now you're going to notice here that I make a mistake. I make mistakes, it's okay to make them. As long as they're in pencil, you can just quickly rub them out. So you'll see that then I start to draw the line more from his under eye. And I create a quarter semicircle and a triangle underneath, and that's basically his beak. Really simple shapes create the best drawings, and that's what I want you to remember. Everything that I'm drawing in front of you is just shapes. I'm looking at the picture, I'm seeing the shapes, and I'm just recreating them. All of my shapes always come from the shapes that you'll know: your triangle, your circle, your oval, your square. And the finer details where you start to add in these bands which are on his tail and his wing, these small things come right at the very end. So there you go, there you can see. Now adding on to the hardness factor is his feet. And again you'll see I make a mistake here, so I rub it out and I just start again. There's no point worrying about making a mistake. A mistake in pencil is easily erased. There you go. I'm happy with that foot now, so I'm going to line it out in my black pen. Beautiful. Now I nearly forget that he actually has another foot. This foot is a little bit of a different shape. It's more or less 3 baked beans. Looking at feet from different angles will give you a little bit of a guideline about how shapes change depending on their perspective. And there you have it, guys. There is my How to Draw Zazu from The Lion King. Really easy, really simple. I finished mine off using a little bit of watercolour paints, and then I went over all of my lines with my permanent marker, not the crappy one, but the really good one, just to outline and make it all strong in the detail. And then I rubbed out my pencil lines. So remember, your pencil work is always just the groundwork. It doesn't matter if it's perfect, it doesn't have to be at that stage. You saw I made a few mistakes and I quickly just rubbed them out and just started again on that piece. Let me know how you get on with this drawing tutorial, because I'd love to do some more for you. If you're interested in cartoon work, or if you're interested in doing some more realistic work, doing some portraiture, faces, drawing faces and bodies. Hope you have a great week. I'll see you next week. Bye.